What if I told you that everything you've been taught about nutrition was carefully curated to keep you dependent on a system that prioritizes shelf life over human life? We have been conditioned to believe that the orange is the gold standard of vitamin C, the ultimate shield for our immune system. But hidden in the rugged, unforgiving terrains of the Himalayas and the wind-swept coasts of northern Europe grows a ghost plant that makes the orange look like a sugary placebo. This fruit contains 10 to 12 times more vitamin C than any citrus you can find in a grocery store. It possesses a biological profile so complex, so potent, that it was once classified as a state secret by the Soviet Union. It survived the radiation of Chernobyl and fueled the conquests of the greatest empires in human history. Yet, unless you're a specialist in ethnobotany or a high-altitude survivalist, you likely don't even know its name. This is the story of sea buckthorn, the forgotten king of survival and the systematic erasure of a plant that could render half the supplement industry obsolete. To understand why this plant is so dangerous to the modern status quo, we must look back to the year 326 BC. Imagine the exhausted cavalry of Alexander the Great. They were thousands of miles from home, trekking through the jagged peaks of the Hindu Kush. Their horses, the very engine of their empire, were dying. Their coats were dull, their bones brittle, and their spirits broken. Alexander, facing a mutiny born of despair, noticed something strange. A group of horses that had been abandoned to die in a thicket of thorny, orange-berried shrubs didn't perish. Instead, they returned to the camp weeks later with a vitality that seemed supernatural. Their muscles were rippling, and their coats shone with a metallic luster. The Greeks were so stunned, they named the plant Hippophae, literally, shiny horse. Alexander didn't just find a forage crop, he found a biological weapon. His army began consuming the berries and leaves, transforming his weary men into a force that seemed impervious to the ravages of long-range warfare. Centuries later, the greatest conqueror the world has ever known, Genghis Khan, would build his entire logistical strategy around this same Viking berry. The Mongol hordes were legendary for their endurance, capable of riding for days with minimal rest. While European armies were dying of scurvy and infections, the Mongol soldiers were fueled by a fermented tonic of sea buckthorn. Khan's healers discovered that this plant didn't just prevent sickness, it accelerated the healing of deep sword wounds and skin infections. They called it the blood of the earth. It allowed a nomadic army to sustain itself in the harshest climates on the planet, from the scorching Gobi Desert to the frozen Siberian tundra. This wasn't just food, it was survival technology that allowed a small group of warriors to conquer the known world. But as the world shifted from the age of empires to the age of industry, the knowledge of sea buckthorn was deliberately pushed to the margins. In the West, we became obsessed with standardized crops, plants that could be easily harvested by machines, sprayed with chemicals, and shipped across oceans without rotting. Sea buckthorn, with its fierce 4-inch thorns and delicate berries that burst at the slightest touch, refused to be tamed. It was an anti-industrial plant. It grew where nothing else would, in salty soil and sub-zero temperatures, hoarding nutrients like a biological vault. Because it couldn't be easily commoditized, it was labeled a nuisance shrub or a weed. The king was exiled, replaced by the weak, mass-produced orange, leaving us with a nutritional deficit that has lasted for generations. Why did the most powerful empires in history rely on this plant while we are told it doesn't exist? The answer lies in the radical, almost frightening chemistry hidden within its skin. While the West ignored sea buckthorn, the Soviet Union turned it into a high-stakes scientific project. In the 1950s, Soviet scientists were tasked with finding a substance that could protect their soldiers and citizens from the most terrifying threat of the modern age: radiation.
They didn't find the answer in a synthetic drug. They found it in the oil of the sea buckthorn berry. When Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit the Earth in 1961, he wasn't just wearing a spacesuit. He was supplemented with a specific sea buckthorn extract to protect his skin and organs from cosmic radiation. This plant is a biological anomaly. It is the only plant on the entire planet that contains the full spectrum of omega fatty acids, 3, 6, 9, and the incredibly rare omega-7. Omega-7, or palmitoleic acid, is the holy grail of cellular regeneration. It is a key component of our skin and mucous membranes, but it is almost non-existent in the modern diet. Sea buckthorn contains it in concentrations that defy logic. This is why, following the catastrophic meltdown at Chernobyl in 1986, the Soviet government didn't just use bandages and saline. They authorized the use of sea buckthorn oil as a primary treatment for radiation burns. The oil didn't just soothe the skin, it signaled the DNA to repair itself at a rate that baffled Western observers. It is a master antioxidant containing high levels of superoxide dismutase, an enzyme that acts as the body's primary internal defense against oxidative stress that causes aging and cancer. Let's look at the hard data that big agriculture wants to keep off your labels. A single orange is often praised for its 50 milligrams of vitamin C. A sea buckthorn berry of the same weight contains up to 600 milligrams. But it's not just about the quantity, it's about the delivery system. Vitamin C is water-soluble, meaning your body flushes it out quickly. However, sea buckthorn is packed with natural lipids and fats. These fats act as a Trojan horse, allowing the high-potency vitamins to bypass the digestive tract's hurdles and be absorbed directly into your cellular walls. It contains 3 times more vitamin A than carrots and more vitamin E than wheat germ. It is a complete multivitamin designed by evolution to survive the most hostile environments on Earth.
So, we must ask the forbidden question. If this plant is so effective at healing the body and protecting us from environmental toxins, why isn't it in every pharmacy? Why are we told to drink pasteurized, sugar-laden orange juice instead? The answer is as cold as the soil this plant grows in. Sea buckthorn is a nightmare for the industrial food complex. First, it is a protected plant by nature. Its thorns are like needles, and the berries are so fragile that they must be harvested by hand or by expensive specialized freezing techniques. You cannot mass-produce sea buckthorn for pennies. Second, you cannot patent a berry that has been growing for 12 million years. There is no intellectual property in a wild shrub. The pharmaceutical industry cannot own sea buckthorn, so they have no incentive to tell you that its oil can heal a stomach ulcer faster than a prescription pill, or that its leaves can modulate your immune system better than a chemical shot. We are witnessing the commoditization of deficiency, where the most powerful medicines are labeled as weeds because they are free and uncontrollable. The era of relying on a fragile industrial food chain is coming to an end. As our soil becomes more depleted and our environment more toxic, the forgotten king is waiting for those brave enough to reclaim it. Sea buckthorn is not just a supplement, it is a symbol of self-sovereignty. It is a plant that requires respect. If you wish to bring this power into your life, you must look past the flashy labels of the health food aisle. The true potency is found in the cold-pressed, unrefined oils and the raw, frozen berries. It is a living pharmacy that you can grow in your own backyard. It is one of the few plants that actually fixes nitrogen into the soil, meaning it heals the earth while it heals your body. It doesn't need pesticides. Its own chemistry is so potent that most pests won't dare touch it. Incorporating sea buckthorn into your life is an act of rebellion.
A single teaspoon of the oil or a handful of the berries provides a surge of bioavailable nutrients that your body has been craving for decades. It stabilizes blood sugar, flushes the liver of toxins, and creates a radiant glow in the skin that no expensive cosmetic can mimic. But more importantly, it reconnects you to a lineage of survival that stretches back to the Mongol steppes and the Greek battlefields. We have been kept in a state of subclinical scurvy, fed enough to survive, but not enough to thrive. Sea buckthorn is the antidote to that mediocrity. It is the Wang Lung, liquid gold, that was once reserved for emperors and astronauts, now available to anyone with the wisdom to seek it out. The systematic erasure of sea buckthorn is a case study in how we are being steered away from our natural heritage. But the truth has a way of surviving, much like the plant itself. It survives the frost, it survives the salt, and it survives the silence. You now hold the knowledge that was once a state secret. You know why the horses of Alexander shone like metal, and why the Fihangja of the Soviet Union could withstand the vacuum of the space. The question is no longer, why didn't I know this? The question is, what will I do now that I know it? Will you continue to rely on the hollow promises of the industrial supermarket, or will you seek out the king of survival? If you are ready to stop being a spectator in your own health, start by investigating the plants that the system calls weeds. The most powerful medicines on earth don't come with a prescription, they come with thorns. Reclaim the sea buckthorn, reclaim your vitality. And remember, the most dangerous thing to a broken system is a human being who knows how to heal themselves. If this revelation has opened your eyes, share this knowledge with those who are still trapped in the citrus myth. Join us as we continue to unearth the lost secrets of the earth. Subscribe to the channel, dive into our archives on charcoal and ancient grains, and let's rebuild the living pharmacy together. The king has returned. Are you ready to follow?